online cups. He's a bit of a grinder, at least from what I've seen of him. And I was chatting to him a week or so ago about this tournament. He's really excited to be in, really excited to really put a performance out there.
And Stanislavko most likely would like to repeat his success from this
Yeah.
exact room, right? In the last DreamHack Bucharest.
Yeah, and that format should be favoring Stanislavka also as the guy who is really looking into different formats. And we will talk about the format later. But the Group D on screen, Life Coach versus Gara, Hoi, AK Wonder. Life Coach versus Gara is also interesting. Gara, the original champion of the DreamHack, then Life Coach winning the Seed Story Cup recently. So again, like a player who won the tournament himself. Gara, have you won anything recently? Like he's still trying to get.
He kind of fell off the radar. That's for sure. He had his biggest success in the beginning of the scene. He was also the guy that was not really known. I remember when we were playing in the first DreamHack Bucharest. We already had some personalities back then, right? And then Reynard comes in, and he's like, "Well, I brought this guy," and there's like Gara standing. I'm like, "Okay, is he good? Oh, he will win this tournament." I'm like, okay, and he won it. I'm like, okay. Well, Reynard was right. So definitely, Reynard had a really good eye for talent back then, and Gara was a great pickup. Recently, Gara is more a content creator than a tournament player. I think, at least in my, from my perspective. But he definitely wants to go back on the horse.
I think he's still one of the most underrated pro players at the moment because he's playing a lot, he's trying, and but the thing when he falls short is maybe because he's bringing those weird decks in a way.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, I think where he sort of sticks out in a good way, and maybe a bad way sometimes, is that he likes to experiment with some, even just, card changes, never mind like full deck archetypes, but just a few different cards here and there. And a lot of the time in the past few tournaments, we've seen it just not really pay off well enough. But you never know. Sometimes when you do make those changes and you play a bit more risky, it does actually pay off in the end. So we'll see if he can do it this time.
He's also known for the ramp style, right? And that won him the first DreamHack, and he's always kind of sticking to it. I really hope to see his trademark being played here as well.
And in this tournament specifically, we will test the skills of the players because the format is a bit different. They had to bring 9 classes. So you can see here 9 classes from each player, and then they will have to ban one class first. They are banning opponent's class, opponent is banning their class. Then they pick only one class. Then they have 2 bans. And then 1 pick, 2 bans, 1 pick. And
from the remaining 2 classes.
From the remaining 2 classes. So it's interesting because in the past we had formats where you ban pick, ban double pick, try to do that. But here it's a really heavy ban because we are banning at least from the 4 top classes, we are banning 3 of them.
Yeah, and I really like how realistic this example graphic is in the fact that Priest is banned first from both players. So really good to see.
Both players are not picking Warrior from the last 2 classes.
Yeah, maybe swap those around and we get a more realistic representation of what will happen. But yeah, this is such a cool format. It means you have to prepare 9 decks no matter what. And also, your strategy past maybe your first ban is just completely fluid. Like, as soon as your opponents, you go first ban, which is normally pretty solid. A lot of the time, you normally know what you want to ban first. It'll probably be one of the big 2, so like Warrior or Shaman. And then you get to pick. And then after those 2 bans, though, that your whole strategy can change and alters from there. So it'll be really interesting to see how players navigate this. And I think whoever does the best job in this phase has, like, probably just the best shot at winning the whole tournament, regardless of like the in-game sort of play itself. But if you can sort of win the ban phase, I think you can perform very well here.
And that's actually a very cool thing, because usually card games are all about preparation. You go into the tournament, and execution of the tournament is less important than the preparation itself. But when we are playing other card games, it's like you spent weeks preparing for a Grand Prix, DreamHack, Darkmoon Fair, or whatever you were playing in, like where 2,000 people are turning up and playing the game. So picking a correct deck was the biggest impact, has the biggest impact.
You can play the best you could ever play in a tournament, but if your lineup isn't correct, then you're probably going to lose, right?
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter if the preparation work's not done, you're not gonna make it all the way.
What's really interesting for me is that it actually influences them to change decks as well. So it's not like you bring just top 9 archetypes. You really have to think about those bans and picks and then maybe modify the decks, because you're like, all right, if I'm banning Warrior first, I'm never going to play versus Warrior. Then if I ban either let's say, Warlock or Druid or Shaman, because they are going to pick one of those classes. I know for sure that I will not play versus those classes. So if with my Priest or Mage or whatever is left for me, I might bring new cards that will counter this new meta game that I'm creating right now. So that's something that I'm looking forward to see what changes those guys will have with their own decks. But let's look at the schedule, guys. This is the schedule for 3 days. We have 3 days full of Hearthstone. Today, as mentioned, we're starting with the first group, well, the second group, Group B, and then we'll follow up with the Group D. Group A and C is being played at the same time as the first group. We'll have some players joining us for the cast after those groups are finished. Then we'll move to Saturday, when on Saturday we'll just start the top 8. From each group, 2 players are moving forward. Top 8 is double elimination as well. Why double elimination is good, Lothar?
Well, first of all, you have more chances to win the tournament, right? You sometimes I hear people like saying, "Well, I went through 2 group stages and I won so many games, and then I just went into top 8 and I lost 1 game because kind of the luck was not on my side. I made one bad choice or whatever, and it's over." In double elimination, you have a second chance. Of course, if you lose and you still want to win the entire tournament, you have a really hard task to win the grand final twice, right? But at the same time, it
It's better than going out.
yeah. Well, it's just better than losing once and going out. That's for
Yeah, that's
sure.
actually a really good point. I think we have to explain that specifically. So we have double elimination in the top 8, which means that if you go undefeated to the final and your opponent comes from the lower bracket to face you, he will have to win double best of 5 versus you. So it's not like it's just the grand final, 2 guys meet, 1 wins, and he becomes the champion. If the guy is actually from the lower bracket, he has to win 2 series. Because
Yeah.
it's the winner, you have to have a chance to actually have the double elimination as well.
Even when we had tournaments with double elimination in the past in the Hearthstone scene, they didn't have that rule. And that was kind of hurting the player that was going undefeated because, in general, he was like losing one and losing the entire tournament, right? Because he
Yeah,
lost in the
exactly.
No, he
grand
wasn't being
final.
eliminated twice, right?
Yeah, and everyone else could have lost one and still be in the tournament or even win the tournament, right? So this is the correct way of doing it, and I'm very happy to see it here in Bucharest.
Yeah, me too. And let's look at the Group B. So we have Ekop versus RDU as the first match. And you guys mentioned that both of those guys are really good. Specifically, RDU is the king of the formats. Before he was the king of the formats, really going into the deck building. Who do you favor?
Well, I can tell you something before we will favor someone, but I'm in G2 and I see how they're preparing, and they spent an enormous amount of time on preparing the band phase and then picking the decks and talking about which deck is better in this specific scenario and this specific scenario, and it was switching all the time. Every single day there was like hundreds of messages about the format, so it was really a huge brainstorm, and I'm so happy to see that again, because the same thing I observed when we were playing in LTLC. We had like these huge discussions preparing for each match, and that was so cool to see so many factors influence the outcome of the match. When you play a conquest match and just pick 3 best decks, it's kind of lackluster, right?
Yeah, and I think on Ekop's side, the only thing that would worry me is he didn't prep too much for Insomnia, and it is a different format and maybe a simpler, easier format to prep for, but he actually admitted he just didn't really prep that much. He just brought the decks he thought just were the best, and then just ended up playing very well and then taking it. So we'll see if there's if that shines through a little bit, and we can actually see the picks and bans come up now, and already there's something interesting
So
to see on Radu's side.
Yeah, there is a
Wow.
priest, but let's go through the bans first. So both of the guys banned Warrior. Then the first pick for Ekop was Hunter. For RDU, it was
No, it
Shaman.
was Druid.
Yeah, it's Druid versus Shaman.
Oh, that's the first pick.
yes.
All right, so
Yes.
it's Druid versus Shaman. So Ekop picking Druid, which worked for him at Insomnia, and then Shaman for RDU. Then they banned Ekop banning Druid and Warlock, I believe.
Yes.
From RDU, okay, and RDU banning Shaman and Warlock.
Yes.
So they both have Mage as the second pick. It's hard to say which Mage is it, because with regards to strategies, it can be Freeze Mage, it can be Tempo Mage. And then the last bans is just... it's interesting that Ekop was able to get Hunter as the third pick, which is a really good class overall, where RDU has to be with the Priest.
Well, he banned the priest.
He banned the Priest himself, yeah.
So his strategy is saying, I don't want to play against Excavated Evil for some reason, right? Because that at least that's the trademark card for me in Priest in general. An AoE effect that defines the way of you play the game is something that affects your deck building. So I'm guessing that his decks are just being tailored the way that they're being punished by overextending, right?
Yeah.
So this is why he banned the Priest class for some reason.
Yeah, and already we've seen the impact that this format has on player lineups. We've seen Druid, Mage, Hunter versus Shaman, Mage, Priest. Not something we've seen too often before. Obviously, no Warriors knocking around, but also no Warlocks as well because of these continued bans. The way it works with the double ban, as you were mentioning earlier, Nimsh, is that you really get restricted very quickly as the player in the picks. That you can take, like, say, Shaman as a tier 1 pick, but then the next bans are going to be like Warlock or something, and that's like, another tier 1 class. So you can see a nice mixture already coming out.
All right, it's going to be super interesting, but I will leave you guys for the castle. Lothar, Raven, take it away.
Thank you, bro. Let's take it away. It seems like a mirror match. 2 tempo mages, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a few builds, a few different build styles you can go with Tempo Mage. But yeah, at the moment, it's looking very, very similar so far. Nothing's really sticking out. You genuinely want Mana Worm in Tempo Mage. I've heard that's a pretty good card.
I heard that as well. It's kind of like a worse Trog. Yeah, so when you think about it, it actually is, right? Because when you play Trog and you want to overload, usually you also build the board at the same time.
Yeah, but is it better because you don't overload in this class?
It's
something to think about.
It's an additional skill to manage the overload, but also when it comes to mulligans, there was one interesting change in the way we do mulligans because both players are locking the cards and they see it at the end of the phase, right? When both players are just clicked, change the cards.
Okay, so we are going to get off to a Mana Worm opening, more than likely from both players. Although one of the strategies you can do as Tempo Mage is if you're behind, or if your opponent starts Mana Worm and you have a hand like this, then you can actually hold the Mana Worm to get just a bigger blowout turn in maybe a turn or so's time. Because if you just play Mana Worm, then you give your opponent the opportunity to just Frostbolt yours and then carry on with their Mana Worm and start really snowballing damage. So I wouldn't even mind, especially with Sorcerer's Apprentice in hand, like it has slightly slower delayed turn in the fact that you could, build into Mana Worm, Sorcerer's Apprentice next turn with the coin, or you can just go into Sorcerer's Apprentice coin Frostbolt to deal with the Mana. So I really like the hold here.
The problem is that if you're not playing the Mana Worm on turn 1, then your opponent has a free turn to develop his board. And fortunately for Ekop, he picked up a Cult Sorcerer on the turn 2, so that was really fortunate for him because otherwise he would have been kind of pushed to just ping and not develop anything additionally. But for RDU, this is an interesting choice. He can either go for the Sorcerer's Apprentice and then Arcane Blast the Cult Sorcerer, which seems like the best choice in overall and the fastest decision to make. But it is better than going for the Cult Sorcerer and maybe coining out the Arcane Blast for the Mana Worm. So
I mean, he can he can clear the board with Sorcerer's Apprentice, right?
Yes.
And I feel like if you play Sorcerer's Apprentice, then you need to clear the board because otherwise it's just going to die. And again, you sort of give your opponent the, a slight, edge on going first. So it does look like he's going for the wider play and just going Mana Worm into Apprentice.
I like that a lot because your Mana Worm then has free attack, which kind of says you have to sacrifice 2 cards to get on the board again, right?
Yep. So second Mana Worm coming down now. This is going to be, it's the same with a lot of mirrors. You normally do just fight for the board, any sort of minion-based deck at least, as opposed to any sort of spell-heavy deck like Freeze Mage. But do fight for the board as much as possible. Wouldn't be surprised to trade in. Yeah, there we go. Just going to clear the Sorcerer Apprentice up because that card can cause havoc. Real havoc, and being just such a sort of tempo card in the amount of stuff you can get done in your turn.
Well, let's say you leave that Sorcerer's Apprentice and the turn 3 can be an Arcane Intellect for 2 mana, 0 mana Arcane Missiles, and maybe additional Arcane Blast or whatever just can fit the turn. So definitely good choice to trade with that Cold Sorcerer. Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Arcane Blast. Interesting.
I mean, the idea here is, I think Arcane Blast is normally used to try and hold, for spell power and killing the big
Yes,
minions like Azure
but
Drake. So missiles was very likely to at least get some work done next turn. But the ping meant that he couldn't actually Arcane Intellect, which now is going to really slow the turn down.
I think like the Arcane Intellect on that turn was very important, but Ekop is drawing like mad. This is crazy when you think about it. Drawing the Azure Drake on curve is just insane in this turn. Not a mana worm, and that's perfect because now we can develop a minion, play the Frostbolt in pink, the Azure Drake down to get the board control, and that's both players are drawing really well. Let's say like that.
This is really just back and forth. As soon as someone gets a sort of a high impact card like Phylan's Portal, for example, then to really start to swing a turn, this is going to more than likely continue. Although, as you said, Arcane Intellect is actually very important here, just to be able to refill and at least get card advantage. As we can see, there's Azure Drake and Flame Strike in the hand there, but that they're more sort of. Azure Drake's going to take the whole turn at this point, and Flame Strike's more of a reactive card, whereas Thalnos into Blast is just going to get the work done now. And also Flame Waker and Arcane Explosion, another card that's seen more and more play in Tempo Mage. And this sort of hints at the Archmage Antonidas version with the tomes as well.
Yeah, that's true. Faceless Summoner. Oh, interesting. Has to be a one-off. I mean, it's a trademark card for RDU. He won the DreamHack in Sweden last time, playing with I think one Faceless Summoner
I think
and
he had
two
Flame Strikes.
Yeah.
So his hand is reminiscent of the deck he was playing then. Probably still a few changes in there. Okay,
Oops.
missiles only hitting one, but that's what Flame Waker's for. Just
Well,
clear it up. Not too bad overall.
He had 6 damage
Yeah.
in overall, so there was a huge chance that this Azure Drake will be on 1 HP.
So now, are you feeling pressured enough to actually just Flame Strike here? Because Flame Waker is just one of those danger cards, right? That can really snowball out of control and push a hell of a lot of damage. Faceless Summoner could feel okay, but you've not seen Fireballs yet. So if the minion just dies and Flame Waker clears it up, as well as the spell power and the help with the additional trade from Thalnos, then you could just lose the board and then leave Flame Waker alive again.
I feel like Flame Strike is okay in this situation. Just
Are you ever
because of
going to
the
get a
fact
better board state in this mirror?
your opponent already played an Arcane Intellect, so there are less chances of drawing additional cards. He's left with 2. Most likely there will be spells, because I'm sure that RD was keeping track which card are being kept in which position. So he knows they're being either reactive or it's like a huge drop, like Antonidas or let's say Ragnaros, something like that, right? So Flamestriker is also not useful against those cards.
Yeah.
So I would not blame him to use the Flamestriker now. Oh, well, he doesn't use it. Interesting. He goes for the Frostbolt with the ping.
Yeah. So what are you even holding the Flame Strike for at this point?
It's
Because it's not as if that option gave him the ability to play a minion, right, and get some develop board presence.
The reason why he played the Frostbolt with the ping is that he plans on using the Faceless Summoner. He's like sold on playing the Faceless Summoner with the ping for Talnos next turn. So he's okay with whatever will be dropped on board. And I think there's no other reason to play the Frostbolt over the Flame Strike in that situation. Does this change his situation here? I don't think so. Yeah. He goes with the plan from the previous turn. Goes with the Faceless Summoner. Let's see what will be the drop for 3 mana. Well, it's decent.
It's okay. Could be worse. Could be better.
But
I think on this board as well, you'd be okay with that. At least that it can kill off the Apprentice and isn't too easily gotten rid of by anything of the Mage at this moment. But there's the Phylan's Portal, not quite usable yet, but that is a lot of spell power to combine with Arcane Explosion.
That is true. That is actually 3 damage overboard, and that kills the ghoul.
Yeah, why not?
Job's done.
Okay, so now are we going to see Flame Strike?
Most likely.
Well, I feel like the sort of longer term plan here would be Flame Strike this turn, and then try and just go sort of Flame Waker into just pressure and actually just sort of burn your opponent down. The problem is on 29, it's a tough call, but at least with Flame Waker Fireball next turn, as well as Ping, you can actually almost certainly deal with any minion that comes out.
Yeah, that's true. And to be honest, I don't think like in this stage of the game you can risk just not getting value from Flame Strike. So I would love to see it being played. 'Cause let's say your opponent plays you know that your opponent will be playing the portals, right?
Mm.
Because they are so good in this format, at least that's my guess. And those minions will have more than 4 HP in the most outcomes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. There was an option to go Flame Wake and Fireball on the Drake and then more than likely kill the Apprentice, but the second you don't kill the Apprentice, it starts to get a little bit dicey as your Flame Wake is almost certainly dead. And that is not bad. 7-6 off the Fire and Pole as well as the damage to face, and suddenly, you know, sitting on 15, you're feeling a little bit afraid knowing your opponent's held on to a couple of cards for quite a while, or at least that one Fireball's been in hand for a long time now.
Yeah, but now double Flamewaker changes the Fireball not only into a kill minion, but also deal 4 damage to the face, and that's quite a lot of damage. Double Fireballs to clear up the board? No, just go
No.
and kill your opponent.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just holding, having those 2 Fireballs and just edging the extra damage to push him down to 15 was really key there. Obviously getting the Frostbolt and the second Fireball was perfect there, but that is going to be the first game, and a pretty weird one, pretty weird like Tempo Mage mirror there, as it was just so much battling for the board early on.
But to be honest, like the mirror match between Tempo Mages feels like it's so volatile, right? With um, the spells that can be discounted are switching the board state just back and forth, and you can't really predict what will be happening next turn because it's so much spell power. Then the one Arcane Blast turns into kill an Azure instead of kill a 2-drop. So it was really hard to predict what will happen.
Yeah,
Which
I think
player
like
will win.
Tempo Mage can have such a lot of the time it feels either the turns are super efficient and you get so much value, or they're actually just a bit lackluster, as we saw some of those where it was just like ping, arcane missiles pass, you know, that
Yep.
sort of turn. But you know, it was a really close one, and you know the Mage is gone now. This is last hero standing, right?
Yes, it is last hero standing, so Ekop will be sticking to his Tempo Mage. I still
Ooh.
feel like the turn when Ekop decided on turn 4 to play Arcane Missiles instead of Arcane Intellect was keeping him like on the back foot for the most
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah, like if he played the Insect, he could have actually accelerated his game plan
Yeah.
as opposed to, you know, I mean, he did fine in the end anyway. But
Well, that top deck Fireball was not really, you know, that often happening, right?
yeah. But it is going to be the Mage versus the Priest, Lothar. How confident are you about this Priest?
To be honest, I have no clue. We'll see. It's a dragon priest, and the Bookworm is one of the most impactful minions right now when it comes to minion matchups. So it can be decisive in this matchup when there's a lot of minions on board with free attack, because you have cool sorcerers, you have a Falnos, you have a Flame Waker, you have Sorcerer's Apprentice. What else do you have?
Well, Flame Waker as well, you can kill that.
Yeah, I already mentioned Flame Waker. Is there anything else apart from that? You might have a drop from Faceless Summoner that will have 2 or 3 attack as well. So yeah, a lot of options.
Yeah, and going to see a pretty good start for RDU here, and even the Nether Spite as well, just giving you even more options for more dragons coming out. He has so much dragon synergy already with, as we said, the Bookworm, Twilight Guardian hand as well, and I feel like with the sheer like overstated style of the dragon synergy minions, the Mage actually might struggle just dealing with everything efficiently enough, and Mage can just burn out and just run out of juice very quickly. We can see Ekop actually has 2 Arcane Intellect in hand, so at least he's got, you know, the long-term plan of being able to keep his hand pretty full and hopefully have enough answers, but already RDU is piling on the pressure.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting is the fact that the priest in this particular bit with the dragons is kind of like a druid, just without the mana acceleration, because it thrives on. I mean, sorry, not this present druid with the tokens and.
I was gonna say, are we expecting
with
Yogg
Vandal,
in here?
But when you consider the decks from the past, druid was all about curve minions.
Yeah, just playing big, chunky minions that are difficult to deal
yeah.
with.
So very interesting to see how this matchup will go.
And this... Sorry, go on.
So let me just finish. The historian here is very interesting because when you have a very cool interaction with Bookworm. You keep the Bookworm because it's a 6 mana drop, right? So it triggers all the when you have a dragon in hand cards. So it has a synergy with that. But when you play the historian, you get the dragon back. So then you can play the Bookworm because you have a dragon from the historian. So that's a really cool synergy between those two cards.
Yeah, and also the card in a slower dragon deck like this is amazing because I don't know how often you've used this card, but whenever I've used it, there's always been like legendary dragons available. So you end up because there's only a certain amount of dragons in the set that are available to play, right? And a lot of them are huge, either legendary minions or very high-powered minions anyway. So you end up getting so much extra value. And we see Chromagus, like, how does the mage really deal with Chromagus if he gets that
It's
far?
8
Like,
HP.
Yeah, it's like, what is the answer unless there's like a polymorph or, polymorph off an Arcane Tome, for example. Ekop Tome, sorry.
Yep, I agree about that. It's very similar when someone plays a Ragnaros against a Freeze Mage. What do?
Lose.
Most likely, right? So because you can't really deal
Yeah.
8 damage without losing the game plan.
So Arcane Missile's going to go off there.
Probably 2 Arcane Intellects if nothing will be picked up. Unless you really want to play... No, you can't really use the coin this turn. Because you need to keep the coin for the Fireland portal.
Especially now that you have 2.
Yeah, you definitely need to keep the coin.
So one of the cards we've not spoke about too much that is in Ardu's hand, we've been very focused on the dragons, but Priest at the Feast is actually super powerful. I've
If you
lost
get damaged.
I've actually lost a few times to this card purely because not in Dragon Priest specifically, but the card in general, that you can chain enough spells that all the damage you've done just doesn't really do too much because you can recover so much health in even just one turn. You heal, say you cast 2 spells, you heal for 6 as well as doing whatever the spells do, right? So you can really get a lot of value out of that card. And as a 3/6 itself, it's very difficult to deal with again.
I mean, this is more impactful against deck types that have a lot of burn, right? Because the burn is not a recurring damage. When you have a minion that kills, oh well, that's a good outcome actually. When you have
Who needs Priest to the Feast when your opponent has heal bot?
when you have a minion that just attacks every single turn and just stacks up the damage, then the healing is not really that impactful. But if someone just uses a burn to the face to finish you up next turn and just heal, it's like, okay, so basically countered a card.
Yeah.
Like, that's really impactful.
Okay, so Brand coming down with the double effect for the Twilight Guardian. Just going to gain extra 1 damage. Gaining Taunt twice normally doesn't change too much from gaining Taunt once. But still, that board's looking pretty scary. And no Flame Strike to be seen. And even if there was a Flame Strike, there's still minions that survive that spell.
Those minions
board.
are pretty chunky.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're at 17 HP. That's not really that much. When you start against minions that just deal continuous damage to each turn.
Yeah. It never feels great when you're getting beat down by a priest.
When was the last time you heard that, right?
Probably 8 mana mind control times.
Yeah, well, introduction of Twilight Guardian probably as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Because then everyone was playing Priestess just to see if Dragon Priest is a thing. Well,
by the looks of it, it is.
Kinda is, right?
Okay, getting a 5/4 off the portal, not too bad. So Ekop has a couple of minions now that can at least challenge. There's only really Bookworm on the board that's a real problem here, but RDU has ways to heal now. He's got the AoE. With the Holy Nova, going to get 2 card draw, and he can play Power Word Shield if he really wants to continue the cycle. And now showing off some...
use hero power.
Oh, that's true, yeah. You could just do that to draw more cards. Why not?
Yeah.
That's a much more efficient play.
And look at that. How many answers does he have now? Shadow Ward Death to deal with a huge minion. Shadow Ward Pain to deal with the small minion. So you have the wide array of answering every single threat on board. And if your opponent is silly enough to play a small minion, then you have a Cabal Shadow Priest for a Flame Waker, which is nuts. Against the Falanos, it's okay. But against Flame Waker, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna steal your best minion.
I'm also looking forward to, Lothar. Chromagus Power Word Shield.
10 HP?
That's
quite a lot.
And drawing double cards.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, you can get excited about the 10 HP if you want, Lothar, but I like the card draw.
Too bad the mana of him can't be stolen now.
No, but that's what Shadow Word Pain's for, isn't it?
That's the one flex slot.
I was prepared for this.
Does he have 1 attack? No. Does he have 2 attack? No. Okay, then Shadow Word Pain. Does he have 4 attack? No. Okay, well, with 4 attack, actually, you have to, like, rush
Yeah,
with some
Priest
minions
just
into
has
it,
a
right?
single tier of 4 attack. Ragnarok's going to come down. There's not many options for Ekop.
I
And
mean, hitting phase would be... Oh, he snipes the best one.
yeah, that
That's
turned out as
something.
well as it could possibly do. Because the problem here is Arcane Intellect could have just drawn into a bit, whiffs to a certain extent. So Ekop went for the Ragnaros just to guarantee something big. And, sort of big, powerful on the board and can make at least some kind of impact so he can start clawing his way back in this game. But again, I mean, you can just pretty much do whatever he wants. There's the Shadow of Death. It was a big guy. I'll kill it.
To be honest, I was thinking, what if you just go with the Chromagus this turn? Because you play Chromagus per Ward Shield, you have 4 minions on board, and you just smack your opponent's face, and you have a minion that has 6 attack for the next turn, and a Shadow Ward Death for the Ragnar's next turn. The only problem would be if the Ragnar snipes the Chromagus. That's the only bad outcome.
Yeah, I was going
Right.
to say, I think what RDU's doing here is just guaranteeing the win, almost certainly. Not doing anything too flashy, too risky. He's just, what does your opponent actually do versus this? Suddenly, Flame Strike Ping still doesn't clear the board because that Priest did a feast. Then you have Chromagus into Powered Shield to completely, or at least help refill up your hand. So this is looking really good for RDU, and a hell of a pummeling with this Priest deck. And Ekop just doesn't really have too much. Babbling Book could get him some insane spell, but I don't think there's any spell that can really pull him out of this game here.
There's no Twisting Nether.
No, we're not playing Warlock, guys.
No.
And again, just low impact cards.
Frost
Not a lot
Nova.
that can get done.
Cabalism, kinda too late. Not this matchup though. Like in a grinding matchup, like let's say against a warrior, the Cabalism from a babbling book would
actually
be
insane,
just
yeah.
insane value, insane.
Let's make magic.
Okay, so Ekop going to do what he can here. Get the Spell Power Arcane Explosion off. Clear off some of the damage. But there's what, 7 damage? So needs 2. The Priest needs 2 to clear up this game.
Holy Nova, not a thing. I mean, he played 1.
Yeah.
So I guess this will be Chromagus' turn. It's a big
think
minion,
so.
right?
I think this is fine. And again, you see RDU could have just gone all face, but he just trades, really reduced the Mage down to like no cards, no particular outs. We see Chromagus hit the board, and yet again, as we said earlier, 6-8. What is the Mage actually going to do about this?
Interesting to see that he favored the heal from Hero Power instead of Powered Shield. Because basically it does the same thing, but you draw 2 cards.
Yeah, I think the reason for this is if Chromagus is dealt with, then the odds on the other 2 minions being dealt with is quite low, unless there was a ping. So he healed the...
But you can play Powered Shield on the Priest of the Feast. Basically achieving
yeah.
the same thing, but getting...
If it mana... RDU likes to use all his mana. Efficiency.
Well, that's a bad 5-drop.
Yep. As we said earlier, it's likely to have more than 4. Sometimes it's a 3-3. That's not going to be enough as RDU answers with this Priest deck. Taking the win.
We didn't see the power of Chromagus. He just
I
slammed
know,
the ball and won.
well, 6-8 is quite powerful in general.
Yeah, well, just wanted to see what kind of card will he copy to just, get you something unorthodox, like a combo that you don't see that often, right? But yeah. Actually, Priest won a game.
Everyone stop.
Yeah.
Priest won a game.
Newsflash
So
at 11.
that was
Priest won.
It was very interesting though that he's gone with Adiu's gone with Dragon Priest, and it seems to be working pretty well. I don't know. I'll have to speak to him later and see what the grand plan is with the deck. What he thinks it can actually beat, because I know a lot of players have actually tried Dragon Priest. With the Kairos Dragons coming out as well, and everyone still wasn't impressed. But bear in mind, this is a 9-deck format, so you do have to have a Priest list built. But he chose to pick it over some of the other classes he had.
And he actually banned his priest deck as well. So he not only prepared his priest to be played, but also banned his opponent's priest, because he was thinking maybe he'd done the same.
Yeah, and a lot of the times as well is when priests, when there's formats where it forces you to play, say, every class, like some team formats. When it comes, a lot of the time it comes down to the priests playing each other, and the greedier list wins. And as we saw from RDU's list, his list isn't really that greedy because there's a lot of removal in there. It looks like double pain, double death, as well as I've lost the name. The Cabal.
Oh yeah, Cabal Shadow Priest. Yeah.
To steal. So it's a lot of sort of answers, and normally if you go for the greedy priest list, then you'll win the mirror.
Well, the thing is, with this kind of priest, I feel like he's being prepared against aggressive decks and mid-range decks because he has a lot of ways of just, swinging the board really fast. With the Cabal Shadow Priest and the Bookworms, he has a lot of ways to just kill as many minions as possible as soon as possible because he not only kills a minion that is being played on board, but also builds his own board presence, which is
Yep.
more important, right? So I feel like he's being favored against decks like exactly like Tempo Mage, like probably a Hunter if the Hunter doesn't get a swingy turn with, let's say, a good Animal Companion or with a good Deadly Shot.
Yeah. We are into the game 3 now with the Hunter from Ekop. He did choose to use his Hunter over his Druid versus the Priest, so feels he's got a pretty good chance, but the turn 1 Cleric from RDU is kind of locking him out of at least accelerating into Grandmother off the coin, and you can see Ekop taking his time. All three cards actually pretty strong. The benefit of the Toad is that it trades with the Cleric. The Animal Companion is Animal Companion, which is just a strong card overall, and even the Tundra Rhino can be extremely powerful, but at 2 health, it normally doesn't survive that long versus Priest.
Yep. So,
2 attacks, sorry.
Yep.
Not 2 health.
RDU had a problem with the curve, and still has. He has no good way of playing anything on turn 3, but from turn 4, his game plan is actually pretty solid. He has a huge taunt minion. Oh,
Oh,
well, look at that.
or just draw
Oh.
that on 3.
Yeah. Well, he had 2 options. I mean, probably one. Because if he would not draw a good card on turn 3, then he just smack the Grandmother and heal, right? Because you favor that card draw over
Oh,
not spawning a
definitely,
3/2 for your opponent, right? So
Yeah, but the Technician going to be really good for RDU here, because what Hunter generally wants to be ahead on board all of the time, and just and generate the threats that your opponent has to answer.
Yep.
Whereas now it's just, this is the drawback of the Grandmother, where it's a great card in Hunter overall, it fits extremely well in the class, but what is this doing now?
yeah, the 1/1 is not really that threatening.
It does nothing, and
It's just an old lady in a bed, and it's like under a blanket. So
And even the like coin into Houndmaster only makes it a 3/3, which also does nothing on this
I
board.
mean, it would be a pretty cool minion to kill a unbuffed cleric, right?
Yeah.
That would be cool, but
Yeah.
with the buff, it's like kind of sad to see. So a Leok here would not do anything. Misha would be okay-ish, but
I think Huffer would be
Huffer would be
best, yeah.
ideal.
There we go. I think Ekop really needs to think about how he's going to battle the board back. Sometimes in positions like this,
Isn't Barnes better?
well, sometimes I would like to just play Barnes, because you know what? If you get high main off Barnes, or something super impactful, even just any Death Rattle minion, then you're looking really good with a 3/4, a 1/1 potential Death Rattle, and obviously still your granny on the board. So
He went for the Leok instead.
he went for the Leon. Not quite sure if Ekop would agree with that statement, Lothar, but yeah, he did get Leok, and just not too impactful, and RDU continues to just smash down these huge minions onto the board, and again, just Ekop's not got too much he can do, because now even the Houndmaster onto the Wolf doesn't kill the 3/6,
Yeah,
which is very
it's still
frustrating.
lackluster. And if your opponent has Holy Nova, you don't want to see that.
No.
It's like the most horrible outcome if your opponent has a Holy Nova, because not only you lose both of your minions, but your opponent will draw 3 cards.
Yeah.
How do you come back from that?
I don't think you do to a large extent, because something that, Priest is, even Dragon is known as, the class that has the answers, right? It's very, reactive. And if they can react with like 8 cards in hand all the time, like what do you even do? They've always got an answer. The idea is to try and run them out of resources and then build on top of that. I like Barnes, 'cause I feel like at this point you need something big to happen.
I mean, I think you needed actually to have that Barnes last turn.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I agree. I think I would have gone for it last turn.
Because now if you play the Houndmaster, you are bad both against a Holy Nova and against well, not a terrible outcome, and against a Blackwing Corruptor. Because Blackwing Corruptor just smacks down the Houndmaster and is like, yeah, okay, I dealt with it, so not a
I
problem.
also didn't mind the deadly shot there, because that's another sort of, this could be a big turn like response. If the deadly shot hit the Twilight Guardian, then he could trade into the Technician and just leave the 1/1 on the board.
But I still feel like the Barnes on turn 3 or on turn 4 would have
Yeah.
been more impactful, especially before your opponent has the access to Cabal Shadow Priest. You saw it last game. You know that your opponent is playing it. So how do you plan to play the Barnes after turn 5? Because if you get a Ragnaros and your opponent's like, yeah, get me that Ragnaros and I'll get just 8 damage for 6 mana, that's pretty cool, right? So it seems very odd to me.
Yeah, the Barnes is definitely going to sort of lose impact very quickly as the game goes on. And also, even just things like, if just Shadow Word Pain comes out, then early on, the Priest doesn't really have the mana to just use Shadow Word Pain, because then the turn becomes terrible. Just because of using 2 mana in a 4 mana turn or a 3 mana turn is kind of sucks. So, but late game, Priest just has the mana to sort of do whatever it wants with. So we're going to see Corruptor come out now, clear up the 3/2, and continue to pile on the pressure.
Oh,
Yet again,
Rati was going greedy.
Yeah, well, he may as well keep the Cleric alive to a certain extent because of potential card draw going forward.
But is that good when you want to play around a kill command? Because if you play around kill command, you play around...
What does Kill
Actually-
Command do on this board, though?
Well, your Twilight Guardian is safe.
Yeah, we'd have to trade in the bat anyway.
Yeah,
So-
but I was thinking about trading the Cleric with the bat, right? And
Oh,
then,
yeah, sorry,
And
yeah,
then the
yeah.
kill command doesn't kill the Twilight Guardian.
I mean, my view on it would be if the Kill Command went on the Twilight Guardian, the bat trades in as well to kill it off. And then, well, your opponent's got 2 mana. Like, what are they going to do? And,
Yeah, maybe.
and you have your Corruptor still on the board, and potentially your Cleric if the bat Death Rattle doesn't hit it. So, like, I wouldn't even be bothered about a Kill Command on that
Yeah,
point.
you're right. Okay, I can see that. But now this is like the perfect turn for Cabal Shadow Priest, right? But is it better than going for the Historian? Because if you want to have a specific 4-drop, but I feel like the chance of getting a second Twilight Guardian are pretty slim.
Well, I think here it's, the Cabal seems more reasonable because I believe that Bran into Historian is going to be a play. Because then you get insane value from double drawing dragons, and Adu doesn't currently need that value because he's got plenty of options in the next couple of turns. So I think we'll see the Bran and the Nether Spite hang on later on to really refill his hand with some high impact cards if needed. Do see Ragnaros is drawn for Ekop there, so he does have some big answers himself. Next turn he can coin into Call or Ragnaros, so we'll see which one he goes for there. But at the moment that's a pretty big toad to deal with. But Adu can pretty much just run the Corruptor in. The Corruptor's done a good job.
Yeah,
He's had a good day at
that's
work.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's unfortunate.
Oh, and then even the ping going into the 4-2, that's really unfortunate.
Well, he can play the Cleric and then just heal up the Twilight Guardian if he really wants and trade in. Oh, here we go. He's going to go
I feel
for
like
the
Historian's
Nether
always better here.
Spite. Oof.
Oh, look at that.
What did I tell you about always pulls big dragons?
Well, he's not playing against Life Coach, so he can't play Nosdomo, but Malagos is pretty good, damn good.
Yeah.
Scaled Nightmare. That's kind of funny because when you just compare Scaled Nightmare to the Draconid Crusher, it's like, you know what? I feel like the
I'll just take the
potential of
6/6.
9/9 for 6 mana is kind of better than the 3-turn clock for the Scaled Nightmare.
I like the Ragnaros coming down first here from Ekop. It feels more awkward to deal with and has more immediate impact on the board. As trading Huffer into the 3/2 just feels terrible most of the time. As you know, that Twilight Guardian's done so much work. Power Word Shield now going to give Adu even more options to keep his board alive and keep ticking away. And oh my god, here we go. 9/9 for 6 mana. Seems a little bit unfair, but hey ho, this is the power of Nether Spite. And even the Cleric coming down to make the Ragnaros have an awkward time to try and do anything. And Adu, yet again, sat on 30 health.
Yeah,
Not
30
even bothered.
health. I mean, his board control is going down.
Yeah, it's waning slightly, yeah. Ooh.
Oh.
So is that just game?
Wait, 12?
Yeah, it's game. He's got the
4,
Corruptor.
5, yeah.
It wasn't beforehand.
4, 13, 14. Yeah, that's more than enough. I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, was it impactful if to the hit of 1/3? If you would kill the 1/3... No, it still was lethal.
Yeah,
but
I think you would need to kill the Cabal, right? to have
Yeah,
any
he
chance
needed to
there,
kill the
yeah.
Cabal, yeah, to play around it.
So, there we go. Priest.
Priest won again?
2-0. It's unbeaten in this
Rejoice.
tournament. 100% win rate.
Yeah, we can finish the game, like, finish the tournament right now and say, you know what, Priest was the best class in the entire tournament.
We should ladder later today and see how many Dragon Priests we run into, because I bet there are people already trying to play the list.
That's the thing when you when you watch tournaments and play the ladder, because the ladder has its own own
Yeah.
rules,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can't ban 5 classes there. Although some people are saying that they would like to have a ban on ladder. I'm like, nah, you can't really do that on ladder.
People want to play Warrior someday. Shame.
Yeah.
You need to be able to play it. But we are into the next game. It's going to be Ekop's Druid now as his last deck going against RDU's Priest. And then he also has Shaman left as well. As you can see, this tournament is sponsored by HP. See the guys playing on the Omen laptops. They are pretty insanely powerful beasts themselves.
I saw the commercial for the Cube one.
Yeah,
It looks insane, right?
yeah, it's crazy.
I thought it's like, it's not a PC. It's a spaceship.
A small one, but
Well, it's for
it's probably
small
got the,
scale
it's probably
aliens.
got the power of a spaceship. Looking at that ad earlier on, it looked kind of crazy.
They play Overwatch on that.
I think it could manage to play Overwatch, just about. Oh,
Ooh.
and that's us. There we go. We're in the game.
Okay, so Moonfire is in the deck. So we know that there will be Archon Giants and most likely Malagos. So it seems like the current build that is ramping over the ladder, let's say on that, because almost everyone plays now the Malagos version.
Yeah,
With the Auctioneer, right?
Well, that's it. I was going to say there's a couple of like slight variants. There's builds with 1 Auctioneer, and then there's builds with 2 Moonglade portals, for example. Instead of normally it's 1 portal, 1 Auctioneer. So there's a few slight differences, but overall we imagine that this Druid deck is going to be the standard sort of Malagos Yogg Druid we've seen, and that is a hell of a lot of ramp. And looks like Fandral is going to be the option, but the scary thing for Ekop here is, what if there's just Shadow Word Pain? It's so risky, but I think Ekop's in a point, being 2-1 down, that he has to take risks, or he's not going to win. Especially with this hand. What else does he do? Just hero power for the next 3 turns?
Yeah, he has 10 mana in his hand to play, but actually the 10 mana is 1 card. So that's kind of sad. Campbell Shadow Priest. Not really useful right now. The Bookworm would be insane in this matchup, but that's still far away. I was thinking about 2 different scenarios here. One was to just play on curve and save the coin, and the play on curve was, of course, oh my god.
The Wimrest?
Yes, thank you. The Vermis. Historian is also kind of okay, but then you can play the Power Shield. It's so different to cast Priest, right?
We've forgotten how to do this. But no, I like RDU's options there. You just went to put as much stuff on the board as possible, get enough done, and really pile pressure on this Fandral. I think he'll be very happy that there were no, choose one options for Ekop that turn. To deal with the board or anything like that. There was no roots, there was no double ramp or anything like that from Nourish. So RD will be feeling pretty good that he's managed to deal with Fandral, especially Innovate out Fandral. Still has some board presence. Going to be more ramp from Ekop now. So he goes Wild Growth into Hero Power to clear up the, well...
2 Wild Growths, 2 Innovates. Okay, so this is the usual way that a Dragon Priest wanted to win against a Druid, just to get bigger minions than the Druid. It's especially different now that the Druids that we see have more spells than minions, which is interesting. So, that's a really bad choice for Ekop. None of those cards are really that useful. Claw, I would rather have a Bite.
Yeah, especially versus Priest.
Yeah. I mean, 2 damage is like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna heal that.
Yeah.
So it's not really that impactful.
Mark of Nature is just the highest value.
It is the highest value, but if you use it, most likely then your minion will be in range of either Shadow Ward Death or Bookworm, or just that's it, right?
I mean, you can buff the health, I guess.
Yeah.
To go for it, and it's some kind of burst option at least. But I mean, this game is pretty swiftly leading on to how good Ekop's Yogg is going to be. Moonglade Portal is actually a pretty good draw this turn. Allows him to squeeze in more spells before Yogg.
I mean,
to
it's
have
the new
highest
heal bot.
impact. Yeah.
Right?
I've Moonglade Portal to Savannah High Main before. Oh.
Okay.
Bad.
Well, it's a 50-50 to hit something that you wanted to hit, or a 50-50 to go for a taunt by ignoring it,
Yeah.
which is not bad sometimes when you think about it.
No.
Because you can win when your opponent's at 8, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna smash you in the face.
Unfortunately, though, RDU is at 30.
Yeah.
And it definitely has.
Again.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's just not taking. Has he
wait,
took
wait,
any
wait.
damage to face?
Was he dealt a damage in the past 2 games at all?
I can only recall him using heal on minions.
I don't think he was
Maybe
actually
did
damaged.
did the Holy Nova heal him? I don't think so.
But there was nothing that
No.
was damaging his hero all the time. I mean, maybe an Arcane Missiles against the Temple Mage if it was played, but I don't feel it was even played back then.
Not sure. Oh, okay. So the benefit of that portal for Ekop was that at this moment, or at that moment in time, RDU did not have an answer, or like a direct answer. But when you can just draw straight into Shadow of Death, that seems pretty reasonable. Negates the minion from the portal, drops Bran on the board, and at this point, this is what you want to do versus Druid. It's just a bit weird seeing it from Priest, where you build the board so wide that Druid just doesn't have enough to deal with anything here. Like, what does the Druid even do?
I was just thinking, does it have a point? Does he have a point to play the Yogg this turn? Innervate, Bonfire, Yogg. How many spells will played? 2 Innervates, a Raven Idol, a Moonglade Portal, and that's it. That's kind of sad. That's like 4 spells. Now he has Wild Growth, so that's 5 spells. Now he played also an additional Raven Idol, so that's 6 spells, and. Did he just get another Wild Growth?
Yeah, so what Ekop's going to do now is holding off as long as possible and trying to get the highest impact Yogg he can. A Wild Growth next turn cycles 2 spells. As Andy has Innovate, so he can Wild Growth and then use the 0 mana cycle, then Innovate Yogg. So I actually really like the Wild Growth there. It's a pretty cool sort of heads-up pick, and pretty much Ekop confirming he's going for this plan. Yogg has to do the work when he's been dealt a hand like this. And look at all the legendary dragons. Playing as Damu, just to put him under pressure. Oh.
And look at that. Blackwing Corruptor with this 6 damage to a minion that is like insane as well. So Ekop needs to rely on Yogg right now. Everyone in chat is ecstatic to see another Yogg deciding game.
Yeah, so Yogg for Ekop now has to clear the board and draw cards. Healing at 11 versus Dragon Priest. If you draw enough cards, you can feel a little bit safer, because there's cards like Feral Rage in the deck, more than likely.
Well,
Maybe
he's playing
another
Moonglade Portal. Maybe that's instead of Feral Rage?
I think you can play both.
Okay.
It depends. Obviously, we don't know the exact list these guys are running, but I feel like if you clear the board and draw, then you're feeling pretty happy with that Yogg. But I think clearing the board is priority 1, because you're just dead next turn if not, unless there's a hell of a lot of healing comes out. But we're about to see what Yogg can do for Ekop, and if it's going to keep him in the game.
So he doesn't want to play the Moonfire, so just have an option to kill a minion that will be damaged and left on 1 HP. To be honest, I don't know if I like it, because I would rather bank on playing a Flame Strike, to have more chances to play a Flame Strike or a Twisting Nether or a Doom.
So is he going for halfway here? Is he just playing 1 Moonfire and saying, sure? Okay.
Explosive Shot.
Not a bad start.
Fire Sport, killing the Yogg. Oh my god. No charge for you, bro. That's kind of hilarious.
Damn you, Purify.
And
that was a very late turn as well, so Ekop probably hasn't had chance to react to anything that comes out.
Yep.
Probably glad Leroy got charge removed. A 1-6 Leroy Jenkins, what's going on?
Another Raven Idol.
And the secret was Snake Trap, I believe.
Yes, it was a Snake Trap.
Oh! Okay.
So another Yogg? That is crazy.
Andy has Leroy in hand. So this is what I'm going to say is an odd game. I don't really know what to think about this anymore. There's 1,000 dragons in RDU's hand, and he's playing Priest versus a pretty crazy Yogg that's returned to hand. So Ekop can just do it again next turn if he wants to.
How do you know that there's a Leroy? So that's at least something. He got something
he's aware
from
of it,
let's say he wants to develop the board, but he knows there's a Yogg. Deathwing. Oh my god.
I think you go Deathwing, right?
But it's still, look, he has 8 mana.
Yeah, but you look at the value.
I think, yeah.
Good work, RDU. This is what we want to see. If he pulls Nefari and a Malagos out, That's insane.
He needs to play around a freezing trap as well. That's the problem. He needs to
That's
check.
true. Yeah,
He
that's
needs
true.
to check the trap, so he needed to play a small minion that doesn't get basically, blowed by the freezing trap and lose so much tempo. And now Ekop can actually bluff the freezing trap if he kills the 1-3.
Yeah. Depends how much you need to. I mean, he can clear the board if he wants, right? Quite easily. He has bite. He has access to wrath as well to clear up. But the only problem there is what is his follow up from that? He could actually just Thanos. He could bite Thanos, wrath, hero power, right? So he can actually continue to cycle through the deck. Because again, we're expecting Arcane Giants somewhere.
Wow, he's going for the hero power? So that is really interesting for me.
Yeah. So now he's not going to bluff the freezing trap. So already now RDU instantly knows that
It's
is
not
freezing.
snipe. It's
Yep.
not snipe. It's not freezing trap.
It's not bear.
It's might be cut trick because he didn't play a spell yet, and it's not a bear. It's not misdirection.
It's not explosive.
It's not explosive trap.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's got
So-
to be fairly confident. It's snakes or cat trick, right?
Exactly.
Oh, dart.
Let me change your mind.
It's actually testing for dart trap.
Yeah, he was
RDU
testing
being
for
like
that trap.
so thorough with his traps. He, better than us. We missed
Yeah,
dart
we-
trap. So
we
good-
forgot about dart
yeah,
trap.
good work, RDU.
Okay,
Oh,
second
and the torch
Yogg.
as well from the Yogg. This is kind of scary. Beneath the ground's not a bad start.
Let's see what will happen. Fireball, whether does it go? Face first damage in 2 games.
Okay.
Okay, 2 damage. Arcane Blast and a minion as well. Head crack. Actually, when you think about it, head crack is pretty amazing.
It won't come back to his hand though.
Second Yogg! I mean, third Yogg from Evolve. There's a Thirsting Nether.
Doom. Okay, not as crazy as the previous Yogg, but it did clear the board, which is important. And you know what?
You know what's funny? It's actually good for RDU that his opponent didn't play the neutralize, because he had then 2 chances to get the spiders from the traps, from the
Yeah, to then just
from the
cycle
beneath
them.
the
Oh my
grounds,
God,
and
that
then it's
would've been
like kind of horrible.
Okay, let's think about life for a second. How much damage is there? The problem now is though with Deathwing down, Malygos is not a card you can sort of try and play over 2 turns, right? A lot of the time you either Malygos and burn them in 1 turn to win, or you try and set up a position where you're feeling confident that Malygos will survive.
I mean, what do you do with the with
I
the
think you just
Deathwing?
cry
If
if you Ekop.
if you kill it, there's most likely some dragons in your opponent's hand, right? But if you don't kill it, then
It's just you're dead.
you're dead. So you can't really not kill it. So
There
you
is
need
no
to
good option here.
yeah. So
And we can see if he kills it, he's dead anyway because of all the dragons he's gonna pull.
there's 4 dragons there. It's kind of insane. So how much damage can he do with that Deathwing? That's 7. That's 11 damage, right? No, it's 6. Yeah, never mind.
Oh, here we go.
Let's see.
Flight of the dragons.
Some dragons will appear on the board. Well,
Okay, and that is look at Radu's face.
wow, winning by Deathwing. That doesn't happen often, right?
Oh, and also did Priest just 3-0?
A priest did 3-0. Look at that smirk face from RDU. It's
Oh
like
man, I'm just so envious because how awesome it is to win with the Deathwing Pinata, just kill Deathwing and then all the dragons. Because normally when the animation happens, like you have these dragons flying, but
then
mostly just
nothing normally-
well, nothing happens, so just one dragon shows up. But here we had this power of Deathwing, and yeah, like 3-0 with Priest is great, and I really liked how the guys played. But this Priest deck is so good though.
yeah, well, we have to talk with RDU about it. I mean,
Yeah.
the Historian is awesome, right? The brand giving so much value. And
That's it. I mean, that's why the card's so powerful. If you can wait late game, even getting it off once is super powerful because just the quality of dragons that are currently in the standard format is really high. But when you get it off brand, it's ridiculous. As long as you're in a secure board state in which, to be honest, all 3 of those games, RD was under like no pressure.
Yeah.
Like at all.
He was dealt 6 damage in the entire game. In 3 games.
Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
This was a great match, and we have some best moments prepared for you guys. So let's look at them.
Well, he drew 2 fireballs and a frostbolt to finish up the game. RDU was pretty salty about that, I'm guessing. Well, we have RDU here.
In tournaments, I'm not salty at all. Like, I just focus on like every game, game by game, turn by turn, and only at the end of the series I can. But not even then. Like,
Anyway, congrats on winning the game, actually.
yeah, thanks.
And welcome to the couch, RDU. So, the first dream hack ever for Hearthstone. You were there, the same seat. You were playing versus me. You crushed me.
Yes, I remember that.
I cried, and it was single elimination. So you eliminated me from the tournament in the first round.
I remember that everyone was watching it, and it was like, I was sitting with Savige, and we're like, hey, Ninja's being crushed by a kid. What's this?
Who is this guy?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
But before that, actually, my father called me and he's like, "Oh man, you are matched versus RDU. He's this one of the best Romanian players because you've already been in the top 4 of the EU versus
Yeah,
China."
we won Euro versus China before DreamHack, I think.
Yeah.
It
So
was like me, life coach Savige, and Beherit. I still remember, yes.
Yeah,
So
funny
that was-
times.
that was the
RDU
past.
remembers.
Yeah, with Sunshine Hunter by life coach. That was like the times.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
early days. But yeah, you've won versus Ekop. Congrats! And
Thank you very much.
Priest, man. So like, before we even talk about the Priest, how did you approach the strategy? Like, what did you want to ban? Like, is Warrior always bannable, like 100%, or?
I mean, I'm not gonna reveal my strategy after the first round. I have like, we prepared a lot, and I have like 8, 9 strategies according to like what my opponents do. I'll do like something different, and against Ekop, I just like cornered him into like some bad classes because like he didn't pick Shaman first, and then
He did pick Druid first, right?
he picked Druid first. Yes, Druid first is like a good pick, but you kind of like just say, hey, I'll just 3-0 Druid or I lose the series. Kind of like that.
Yeah, because you kind of like lock yourself out
Of the good classes.
too many of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other good classes, because the follow-up ban is 2 bans.
Yeah,
So something that we've sort of discussed at the beginning and expected to a large extent was the first ban normally being Warrior or Shaman, and then the first pick being whichever of those 2 wasn't banned.
Yeah,
Just so you've got like one of the real power classes available to you off the bat.
It was interesting to see you ban Priest as well.
Yes, I ban Priest because I know that if I don't ban Priest, he's gonna pick Priest. He even told me afterwards.
Okay.
Like, because of I know Ekop, and he also knew that I probably have Tempo Mage, so Priest would also be like a good pick for him, and then we'd play Priest Mirror match.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
And yeah, my deck is not exactly like the most awesome in the Mirror match, so I was just like, okay, I ban Priest, then he'll pick Hunter, and then bam, 3-0. And
It's pretty
I-
cool to see that actually your Priest deck is kind of designed to crush decks like Hunter, like Tempo Mage, right? Because they thrive on getting the board advantage while destroying your opponent's board.
yeah, it's Curve Priest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you
it's
just
basically a
curve.
druid, right?
It's like Druid.
Yes. You curve, and then you play like the Nedex Spine Historian, and you get like the big dragons.
Mhm.
And the big dragon was pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
with
then,
Death-
and then you play Deathwing and laugh because
there was nothing, like even if he had mulch or something. Yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
we were talking about that last turn, and we were like, so the options here are don't kill it and die, or kill it and die. So there was just nothing good that he could have done to deal with that Deathwing.
I mean, I had a full board, and the Yogg kind of like was insanely good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
It
he
was.
wouldn't vanish, then it would be like mega good. But because he vanished, he actually gave me the initiative. Like that vanish was actually good for me because like he had like a massive board and I couldn't like steal anything. I couldn't do anything because like the confused too. And I don't know. I don't like Yogg because it just ruins my game plan. Like my game plan is to like make a board and like control the game, and then bam, Yogg just like kicks the board away. It's like
Well, it
how-
kicked it twice, right? In the face.
yeah.
And how did you create the deck? Like, did you create it yourself, or did you consult with other players?
I consulted with like more players obviously. Like I'm not gonna like create the deck myself.
Is there like a specific person that?
I don't wanna like tell you now.
Okay.
So
this
it
is-
might,
so this is
it
secret
might
plan.
affect other players
Okay, yeah,
being
makes
sense.
revealed
I'll
with their strategies as well.
That's absolutely fine. If
I will
it's a
give you all the
secret.
shout outs, every person I prepared with, and all that
At the end of tournament.
later in the stage.
After you win it, right?
I thought you were going to say after the finals. I was
After
like-
the finals.
I mean, the format is
sense.
like really good. It's like group stages, and then if you make it out of the group stages, it's like double elimination. So like you play a lot, and like it's a really good format because like if you look at any other tournament, very rarely you have situations where your lineup is clearly better than your opponents. But here, because everybody brings 9 decks, you can corner them into some spots that they're not used to, and then like almost every time, if you have like a very good strategy, your lineup is going to be better than your opponents.
So do you feel confident yourself?
Yeah, obviously.
And
I told you, like, I prepared a ton. Like, I prepared every day for, like, the last 2 weeks, like, almost all day. Like, I streamed, and then, like, I prepared even more than the time that I even streamed. And I just, like, played, and, like, tried to, like, figure out strategies and, like, combinations. And, like, if they pick that, I pick that. If they do that, I pick that. They will probably pick that afterwards. I force them into that. Then yeah.
So how confident are you versus Tessin, who just crushed JJ?
I don't care who I'm playing against. I'm super confident against anybody. I don't want this to sound like arrogant, but I don't know. I just think that my strategies are really good, and I want to see what strategies other players have, and if somebody can like come with something that beats one of my lines, and that would be like pretty cool to have like a challenge. But yeah, I would like to see good games from now on.
Sounds good. Any more questions to you guys?
No, I think we covered it.
You should take a break and then start another game.
Yeah, makes sense. So if you guys are excited for more Hearthstone from us, stay with us. We're going into the short break, and then we'll be back.